Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Masters of Marketing. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with someone all the way from Tel Aviv, Israel, on the other side of the world. She's the head of product marketing at Keywee. It's a software company based in New York, New York. And she's a software evangelist, a trainer, and a storyteller. And we're excited to hear what she has to say about arming yourself with the right B2B data for content marketing. Inbar Yagur, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this. So I put together this deck. It's the first time I've ever actually done a presentation on this precise topic. So wish me luck. We should be okay. I'm going to share my screen. So I will say that obviously these things are better off as conversations. So I like to talk. I don't know if you know this about me yet, but I like to talk. But if you at any point, if there's something not clear, if I'm coming out and I'm talking to myself, let me know.
Will
That goes
do.
for everybody here. Okay, cool. So data and B2B content marketing. Here we go. So I will introduce myself quickly. So I am Inbar Yagur. I head up product marketing for Keywee. And what Keywee does is we use AI and natural language processing to help advertisers find their ideal audiences on Facebook. There's also some other, like we're working on some other really cool things that we're going to launch. So can't talk about it too much because it's still kind of stealthy, but we're doing some really cool things with AI in general. But yeah, our expertise for the last 5 years has been helping advertisers find their ideal audiences on Facebook efficiently. And so I'm head of product marketing Kiwi. In general, my background is I've spent the last 8 or so years in ad technology and marketing technology. I'm actually a film school refugee. So I have a master's degree from the American Film Institute, and it's the lowest ROI degree in the history of the universe. But I do use my directing training, which I used for nothing else, to put together great marketing content. I've got a lot of passion for content. And so that's where what I do, that's what I love doing. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. Enough about me. Let's talk about B2B content. Okay, so generally speaking, I think when anybody says B2B content or like they say gated white papers, all that other stuff, it's just, you think it's a snooze fest because 90% of the time it is super boring. A lot of times it's like really technical. And it's really like, it's like a lead trap, right? It's like, let's get people to leave their information and they'll get some text on white paper and, yay, there you go. But I don't believe I don't believe in that when it comes to B2B content marketing, because at the end of the day, it's still marketing. And the people who on the other end are human. And I think people kind of forget when they put together B2B content marketing strategies, they kind of forget this. They think about the company, they think about the persona, but they kind of forget that at the end of the day, it's the same person, same as you. You're, sitting at your desk, you're checking your email, you see something interesting, you want to look at it. You're not going to put too much time into it, right? But you do know you're going to give up your information to somebody. It better as heck be worth it, right? And 9 times out of 10, it's not. And I think it's our responsibility as marketers to remember that there are people on the other side of what we do. And I know you're like, okay, well, what does that have to do with data? I'll get there in a second, okay? So a couple things, usually when you do content marketing, you build out your persona. Like we'll call him, Engineer Evan or whatever, Demand Gen Danny. You build out these personas and you make up these imaginary worlds for them. But again, you forget people are inherently people. They are insecure. Think about your own work, right? You're always questioning whether you're doing a good enough job. Everybody does it, right? They're always looking for ways to like be told that they're doing a good enough job. And they always want to know what everybody else is doing, right? Anybody who does any sort of marketing at all, I think is a frustrated artist. I know I sure am. And so there's nothing more that artists want than somebody to just pet their head and tell them, hey, you're okay. You're doing an okay job, right? And that's where data comes in. And that's where data becomes like a really powerful tool in your arsenal. Let me explain why. Okay, so if you are a company that's an expert in your field, that means you know what a bunch of people in your vertical are doing, right? And That's what data does. So the second that you can externalize trends and information that you've been collecting on your users, you're helping the person who you're marketing to, because that's the thing they want to know more than anything else is like, okay, what's everybody else doing? Is what I'm doing okay? Right?
Hmm.
It's the most important thing. So once you share and externalize the data that you have, they can look at it and see like, oh, okay, I'm doing a good job, or okay, maybe I'm not doing a great job, but here I can do better. And they have fun facts to quote, and they have a lot of different things that make them seem really smart, because everybody loves data, right? And if you can, stand up in the middle of a marketing meeting and say, hey, did you know that 55% of people who consume medical grade equipment prefer to do so on Mondays? Whatever it is, right? All of a sudden you've got good information and you seem smarter, and it gives a lot of value. Okay. So there's other stuff that is really good about data and content marketing. So data means charts, means diagrams, means infographics. I don't know if you notice this, but people don't like to read. I know that like that's something that's true for me. Like I skim everything, and I think the last I heard, you get like something like maybe 8 seconds of a person's attention when you bring them to a web page, right? And it's not getting any better, right? So if you're doing something that is diagrammable, that you can use charts on, that's very visual, which I think data is. It's an incredibly visual kind of receptacle. Then it's easier for people to consume, and it's much better than just a long, rambling, deep dive, right? I'm not against those, but if you have charts, it's much easier for people to kind of skim through and understand and get the information. Okay, the other thing that's really good about it, and I'll talk a little bit more about this when I go into my examples, is it really puts you in the like, it makes you an expert in what you're doing, right? It positions you as that. If you share your data enough, then people start saying, oh, this and this company, they know what they're doing. They're smart because they're telling me all this really interesting information. And not only do your customers take notice, it also helps with journalists in your field. So if you're sharing a lot of data all the time, when a journalist wants to do an article on whatever it is that you're marketing, they will remember and recall that you have this data, and they will come to you. And this doesn't happen immediately, but it does happen. I have proof. Okay, so those are great things that you can do. So I'm gonna show a couple of examples of stuff I've done with data, and after that, I'll go kind of into the nitty gritty of how you can do it. Okay. Any questions so far? Wait, hold on.
Sorry, I
I'm
muted
not here.
myself. I think you're
Okay.
going to answer a lot of them, but my main one is, are you collecting all of this data yourself, or are you aggregating it from other sources to save time?
So that's that. I'm kind of gonna talk about that, but basically, it's about befriending your friendly neighborhood R&D / product person / analyst more than anything else.
Got
We'll
it.
talk. Cool. So I want to talk about two things that I've done. The first is at my former job, and this is also a great way to get data, and that is not having to look at your own stuff, just doing a survey, right? It's a really quick way for you to get cool information. And especially if you've got, obviously most B2B marketers have a sort of mailing list that they work with, right? They have handpicked emails of people that are qualified. So you can start by sending out a survey and sharing the survey results. And that's a great way of using data to get people engaged. So I did that at Trend Daemon. So I was VP marketing at Trend Daemon a while back, and it's what Trend Daemon is they do content marketing, analytics, and attribution, personalization, B2B, SaaS, enterprise. So the customers were also B2B marketers, and the thing about it is that because it's content marketing, so I don't know how many of you in this talk are content marketers, but usually that's not a lot of budget. So it's going for people who don't have that many resources, and it's really difficult to reach decision makers. And as the VP marketing at Trend Daemon, I didn't have a content marketing budget, right? So I come in to Trend Daemon, I start my second day at work. Let's be kind. It was about my second day at work. They said, okay, well, listen, we've got 20,000 email addresses. Can you turn them into leads, please? And it was like, okay, do I get any money? No. How much time do I just do it as fast as possible, please? I was like, okay, can I have a designer? They're like, yes, you can have a designer. Great. So I have a freelance designer, I have no budget, and I have 20,000 email addresses. What do I do? Okay. So what I did was I built a survey. I was like, okay, so we're talking to content marketers, and specifically, we know these are B2B guys. So let's see what B2B marketers are doing with their content. And so I put together a list of, like, I think it was 30 questions about their budgets and about their strategies and everything that I thought would be interesting to know about a B2B content marketer. And I sent out the survey, right? So so I was looking at, okay, what worries them on the day-to-day? Who is our persona? What are their pain points? And let's see how they're dealing with those pain points. Let's ask them questions, right? So once I got all of their responses, I turned that into an ebook. And it was a huge success. So I'll talk a little bit, first of all, about the survey. When you ask people to take surveys, they really like that, right? It's a good little distraction. We got amazing open rates just because it's like, hey, participate, take the survey. Right? Oh, survey, I can do that. Right? And so people were really interested. So we had a really high open rate. I think 30% is freaking amazing. We got 10% of all opens actually clicked, 51% completion rate. People were super engaged in it. I think we ended up getting something like almost 600 different people answering. And that's a good data set for what we were doing. And then this is what I created. I created what B2B content marketing looks like in 2018. Giveaway, this was in 2018. And then once I had all this amazing ebook, I then went back to the mailing list and said, hey, look at this awesome ebook, right? And I want to show you the ebook for a second, because I think it kind of I'm not going to show you the whole thing, don't worry. I think it kind of brings home the idea of what you can do with data and data visualization. I'm actually super proud of this. Like, I think this is probably, okay, now I'm building it up. Never mind. I'm really proud of this. I'll show you a little bit of what we did, right? It was about, I think it ended up being like 25 pages long. It was landscape kind of presentation, but here's a couple of things that we did. So for instance, do you use marketing automation? What type of marketing automation? Notice how, like, it's a really simple kind of format and how we're visualizing the data. What your goals are. What people spend, like what their investment is, right? And really cool forms. And because it's like very easy headers and very little text, people really found it easy to engage. So once we distributed the ebook, literally 8% of opens converted into leads. That's people who actually came in, left their information because they were so curious about what everybody else was doing, like people are, right? So we had a huge, like 8% in conversion rate, which is crazy. And this is including phone numbers, by the way, guys. This is not just giving your email and your company name. Like, we asked for their phone numbers, we asked for their job titles, all that fun stuff. And not only did we ask for that, our SDR then started hitting them up and calling them, right? As you do when you ask for phone numbers. And literally 25% of those leads became opportunities. That means they hopped on a demo call. Also, not totally me, right? We had the best SDR in like the history of the universe, really good. But it also meant that the leads I was bringing in were super qualified, and we got 10 new customers from it. And this is enterprise, guys. This is like, and then no free trial. You want a trial, you got to pay for it. You know, there's integrations, there's all this crazy stuff, and yet we still managed to get a whole bunch of new customers. And all of this from a survey. And because people just wanted to know what everybody else is doing. Literally, that's what it spoke to. So yay, data. Okay. I'm not saying this will happen all the time. Like, I've had better results and less good results, but obviously I want to show you the best ones, right? So.
Sure.
Okay, so I've got one more. Any questions about this before I go into the second case study?
So my question.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go first. So when you send out the original survey and you ask them to take it and answer those 30 questions, are you at that point promising that if they fill it out and everyone else fills it out, you'll show them the aggregate results of their industry? Or is their main objective just, I feel special filling this out?
100%, it's fill it out, you'll get the results. I also didn't, this is because I didn't want it to be salesy, I didn't ask for anything beyond their email address when I told them to fill it out. I was like, give me, tell me what you're doing. Give me your email address so I can send you the results. But like, I'm not going to sell to you right now, right? If you participate in this, then you can get the results at the end. Now, there's one more interesting thing to note. I did a quick A/B test, and I did get a small budget to just check something, which was, if I gave people a $10 gift card, would there be more people filling it out? So I did a test on 100 email addresses to see whether, people would be more likely. And the truth is, it didn't help. It actually made the data worse. So we had like salespeople filling it out and like biz dev people. And like, no, I want content marketers. And so the people who were actually the most interested are the ones who are most willing to fill it out. And so we scrapped the gift card idea immediately because we just knew it just wasn't giving us the same quality data than the free stuff, which is maybe counterintuitive, but there you go.
In terms of tools or kind of like platforms that you use for the survey, what did you guys use and what do you recommend?
I'm a big fan of Typeform. I love Typeform. They're slick. You can do self-hosted pages. If you like, their monthly I think it's like $35, and you get a lot of really great customization if you do that. I mean, obviously you can do it with Google Docs, like Google Forms, that's fine. But I personally like Typeform because it's just really sleek. And I mostly like it because you can stick the code on a web page and then you can have it in your analytics too. So even better.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful product. They did an amazing job.
Yeah, it's great.
What'd you use to send out the mass emails?
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the name of the thing. That was PR.
Just question though, was it sending all 20,000 in one day, or did you kind of drip it out over time?
We dripped it out over time. Oh, wait, now I remember, Mixmax.
Okay, cool.
We dripped it out over time. There are tools that let you do it all at once, but not necessarily at that kind of volume. Obviously, it's always problematic.
For sure.
Yeah, but Mixmax, and we did, I think it was the 500 at a time through that. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's talk about now and Keywee. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but we're in a very weird place right now, right? And so basically, COVID happened. Keywee has a great marketing team. We are 6 strong. There's me, there's a VP marketing, we've got a brand guy, we've got an SEO content guy, we've got an SDR. And then one fine day, everything broke. And all of a sudden we just didn't know what to do because the company was in retention mode. It's just, we just want to keep our customers at this point, right? Won't go too much into the weeds on it, but like, it was like, okay, everybody now needs to work on keeping our customers. And there's a whole thing. So we're faced with this, and we decided that the best thing we could possibly do is share data. We wanted to basically talk about retention, and we knew that we had a lot of information that our customers would find super valuable. And it wasn't about just communicating with our customers. Obviously, we want to send things to the entire database, but the whole big picture goal was, let's give our customers something that they can get excited about, that they can sink their teeth into. Let's build trust, and let's do everything we can to keep our customers, right? So we already had one email that we did on a regular basis. We called it the Friday Reader, and it's an email that's been sent out from Keywee, I would say for at least 2-3 years, every single Friday, and it's kind of a roundup of industry news. So we didn't want to leave that. We wanted to keep the Friday Reader, but then we wanted to add 2 new ones. So Mondays, we did something called a data dive, which is basically, we decided what are the key metrics that all our customers want to know. Basically, we talked about reach. We talked about consumption of COVID content versus non-COVID content. We talked about CPCs on Facebook. What are the major data points that we want to share every single week? And then on Wednesdays, this was my project, is to do a deep dive, which is going to pick a subject. I'm going to look at the data that we have, and from my knowledge and experience in the industry, from everything I know from news, and really dig into something and give it some meat, not just show the graphs, but actually talk about what they mean and how they can be actionable, right? And so what you can see here is literally those two things. So one is a super hyper designed like graph data dive that we send on. Obviously this isn't the whole email. I just wanted to give you a screenshot so you know what it looks like. But yeah, so there's one that's just literally 2 sentences and then just the data. Here you go, that everybody gets every Monday. And then on Wednesdays, it's basically a personal email from me. Everybody knows it's a mailing list, but it's from me. It's very like, it reads like an email. It's got some text, it links out to some news sources, and it's got a lot of charts. But I explain those charts, right? I talk about them. And so we've been doing this literally for I think we're at 4 weeks now. I just sent out my 4th deep dive on Wednesday. This is what we've got so far, which is crazy. So my 3rd one got a mention in Marketing Land, which is, yeah, very cool. Like, yay. We have people coming in and asking us to republish. So we've already got, we've turned them into blog posts a couple days after, and we've gotten republished on, I think, 3 or 4 different sites already with that content. Everybody, like the customers, when they talk to their customer success managers, are like, oh my God, these emails are so amazing. Thank you. Like, I have people replying to me, telling me what's going on with them. I got at least 2-3 customers on each email. And I actually, like, I've had people like emailing me saying, hey, I got this forwarded. Can you please opt me in? I want to get these emails. And like, I've had people ask for these. And then of course, like, there's no call to action to book a demo on this. This is just the data. And we've had 2 people already be like, hey, I want to know what you guys can do to help me manage my newsletter acquisition, that kind of thing. So it's very cool. And it goes to show the power of sharing your knowledge and the power of sharing data. So any questions about that?
For sure. So the 2 active demo requests is a clear return on investment. How else are you measuring the ROI? Like, you got in Marketing Land, which is awesome. They have a huge audience. How do you measure who sees you there? And how do you measure kind of just like the good feeling that you're having with your customers turning into retention? You
can't. That's kind of the frustrating thing about it, right? You can look at open rates and you can look at click rates and I'm not a fan of like soft metrics, generally speaking. I'm like, one of my favorite things to talk about is how you can use content to convert people, right? This is the softest metrics I've ever had to deal with ever in my career. And I'm okay with that because this is where we are right now, right? I'm assuming that, a few weeks down the line, we'll be able to look at it more. We're counting reactions, like I'm keeping the emails, looking at how many. So we've got like some numbers. But for every 2 people that reply and say, oh, this is great, there's 30 other people who think it's great and don't say anything, and then 15 other people were like, just shut the F up, I'm gonna unsubscribe now, right? So you never really know. But I think that, these results so far are good enough for now and good enough for the situation, Yeah,
that completely makes sense. And as long as you do have retention of your customers, then like that is the biggest ROI.
Yeah, and I think we're doing the best we can. And yeah, so far so good.
Also, so when you say that you dig into the graphs and you talk about it, is that storytelling? Is that how they can apply this data to use it themselves? What are the biggest insights that you're giving that they normally wouldn't come to themselves?
Right. So when I set something up like this, the first thing is because it's kind of my job to know the product and to know what's happening with the product. I kind of already know what's going on, right? So when I went to talk about user retention, right? We work with a lot of publishers at Keywee who bring traffic to their site. And so when I was talking about, there's huge traffic spikes since this whole thing happened. Like publishers are getting unprecedented page views. And I knew I wanted to talk about how they can keep those people who are coming, right? And so I knew in advance what the story is I wanted to tell. And then I went to seek out the data, right?
That makes a lot of sense. So you have unprecedented traffic. After this COVID is over, you want to retain that traffic. Here's how you turn your new audience into a lifelong audience. And then you go
Yeah.
look for the data on, can you just give an example on like what one of those data points is on retention of users?
So, there was a couple things. I'll tell you how I built the story, right? So we saw a huge traffic spike on COVID content, but also non-COVID content. And what we've seen since then is this steady decrease, right? It's not huge. It's not like this kind of decrease. It's like this kind of decrease, but it's still going down, right? So the first thing I say is, okay, look, the traffic is has been steadily going down over the last 3 weeks. That means that if you're not doing something now, you better start doing it, right? Because this is not going to last, right? So that's data point one, right? From there, I started looking at how people were. I took 2 publishers, one that did paid subscription, the other that did newsletter acquisition. And I said, okay, how much COVID content is this publisher promoting? How much non-COVID content is this publisher promoting? And what are the conversion rates around that? What's the retention rate? What are their costs per acquisition? The volume that they're getting comparatively. And it was literally, I had a bar graph that was non-COVID content, COVID content, right? So this is still driving subscriptions. So you need to do this, right? Same thing with the newsletter, right? I looked, it was like, this is non-COVID content, this is COVID content, and this is how much it's costing, right? I didn't say actual numbers, but it's costing X% less than it did before. And you just look at like a bunch of different metrics. We're all marketers, so marketing metrics about what happens when you compare COVID and non-COVID content.
That's awesome. Yeah, it makes sense to give timely insights. You're basically saying, this is the marketing campaign that you should run. These are my insights. This is what I'm going to run. Trust me, I'm the expert. And because it's timely, it's drawing a large audience. So that sounds like an awesome strategy.
Thank you. Yeah, full credit to our VP marketing. She's amazing. It was her adventure, and we're along for the ride. But yeah, I always feel like, like I said, it's speaking to what people want to know, which is, what is everybody else doing, right? I like, just on a pure human level, everybody is just reaching around in the dark right now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody. And giving them something that's concrete, we can't solve their problem, but what we can do is tell them, this is what we're seeing right now. Here's some concrete stuff for you guys to kind of hang on to that will hopefully be like a beacon, right? That's the best we can do.
Nice.
So can I hop into methodology just a little bit?
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. So listen, this isn't like super complicated. A lot of it is just about kind of figuring out what you want to say, right? So the first thing you want to do is understand what your customers' needs and challenges are, right? What problem are you solving for the customer? What does their day look like? What information would they benefit from, right? What would they find valuable, right? So I've got it really easy because I'm talking to marketers and I'm a marketer. So it's really easy for me to figure out what they find valuable, but it's true for any industry, right? People who, do acquisition of medical equipment have their own like set of challenges. They want to see how much people, maybe they want to see how much people are buying, or what they're paying, or how far in advance do they calculate their, whatever it is, right? Everybody has a day-to-day kind of environment, and you want to look at that environment for your customer and see what you can then, as the product that you're selling, what data can you give them? What information can you give them that has to do with their day-to-day and the problems that they're trying to solve? The next thing you do is figure out who does data in your organization and make them your best friend, right? I don't know if I mentioned this. I did. I'm a filmmaker, and retired filmmaker, escaped filmmaker refugee, right? I'm not a math person. I'm like the last person who would ever want to look at an Excel sheet. I hate it. To this day, I'm just not a numbers person. But you find the right analyst and you tell them, hey, this is what I want to say. Can you help me figure that out in the numbers? or you're the product person whose job it is probably to know these numbers. And you just make friends with them, give them, bribe them if you need to, right? Proofread their emails, whatever you need to do to get them to share this information and to help you pull this information, right? No marketer needs to be like an SQL expert. All you really need to do is just have somebody who can help you find the data that you need. And learning a little bit about data visualization, I think, is always important because I think the way you present it is really critical. And sometimes a line graph is good, and sometimes it's a bar graph, and sometimes it's a pie chart. And it's your job as a marketer to also figure out how you want to show this so that people will easily kind of digest it. And the most important thing, and this is what I'm going to talk about next, is you need to tell a story. If you're not telling a story, you're not doing anything, okay? You want to decide on that story in advance. And it can be a completely in your self-interest, right? I can say, I want more of our customers to invest in a desktop campaign. Can I prove that desktop is better right now, right? Mm-hmm. Let me try to prove it. And then if the data shows it, then yay. If the data doesn't show it, okay, then maybe it's the wrong story. I should try another one, but start with your story, right? If you're trying to answer, if you don't know the questions you want answered, you're not going to be able to get any decent information. So by figuring out your story in advance, asking the right questions, you can then see if the answers that you get make sense. And if they don't, then start again. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm curious, with your 30 question campaign, did you really have 30 questions you were looking to answer, or do all of those just help you answer a couple questions?
So, there wasn't that much science to it. I basically was like, okay, so this is what I'd want to know. I'm a B2B content marketer. Here's the stuff I want to know. I talked to our sales and our customer success and asked them, what would you want to know about our customers and what they do? And that added quite a bit, right? I talked to everybody who is on the ground dealing with customers and prospects and asked them what they would say and what they'd like to know.
And it's what they'd like to know so that they can make a decision on what to do with the company. So the story is really their story. It's not a story you're telling back in that report you're making to the people who answered the questions.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's about, I know if it's important to me, if it's important to our customers, it's important, like our customers, it's our head of customer success needs to know what's bothering our customers, or else they're not doing their job right? And so that's a really good place to go, by the way. Customer success should be your best friend. Sales are always a little bit more like, let's talk about qualifying, right? They're going to be like, how much are they spending? How often do who makes the decisions in terms of your budget? And of course, that's less important to the end user, but customer success is always going to know what's really bothering people and what they really want to know.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Cool. So I know this is kind of counterintuitive, but I kid you not when I say you need to omit actual numbers. So the problem with using real numbers is that different people have different perceptions of what is high and what is low, right? So for instance, if I'm talking about how many, I'm making up these numbers, right? But how many subscribers we came from COVID content, how many subscribers came from non-COVID content, I don't want to say 100 and 500. Okay. I want to show the bar graph, and I want to say COVID was 5 times more likely, or 500% improvement, right? You want to talk in those terms, because otherwise you're risking looking either too big and intimidating or too small, right? There's always this line when you look at your customers. There's always the really big fish. There's always the little fish. And you're always, I think as a marketer, I know I always have kind of the issue of, well, if I tell them we work with the New York Times, they might be intimidated by that, right? So I should probably tell them that we work with Live Strong. Or if I tell them that we work with I don't know, Huffington Post Canada, they might think, well, we're not Canadians. Do we want to, right? So it's always like this weird trade-off of what's too big, what's too small. So solve that problem by not using actual numbers. Using percentages is much easier to understand too, and it gives you clear value, and people get a lot of information from those charts. So literally, if you make a chart in a spreadsheet, usually you've got like the X and Y axis, and then you've got the data on the side, which is usually the numbers. I just cut it off. I just show the chart. I just don't show the numbers. And it gives you the same exact information. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And it's really interesting. And we've done the same thing. And I'm guessing people don't ask like what your sample size is, because you might be like, oh my gosh, I'm getting away with this thing, but no one's really looking that deep into it.
Yeah, which is actually a really good, look at that. Nobody's actually checking your work. Right. That's exactly it. Nobody is going to look and see if they're like, no, they don't know, right? But I always, okay, you have to be honest, right? If you're not talking about
ethical, yes.
100% you have to be ethical, right? But you know what a good sample size is, right? And that's enough. Okay, your product team knows what a good sample size is, right? For instance, did you know that you can really start getting decent data on a Facebook campaign if you spend $100?
No.
I didn't know that until I joined Keywee, and then I talked to our product team, and our product team says, yeah, when we test, if it spends $100, we know we can actually measure it. If it spends under 100, that's not going to go in our threshold, right?
Gotcha.
And they just as easily said $1,000, but the product team knows better than me. So if the product team says cut it off at 100, that's where I cut it off. Make sense?
Yep.
And so you want to be honest about it, and you want to be ethical about it, but nobody's actually gonna. You'll be lucky. Let's put it this way: if somebody is engaged enough with your content to stop, triple check it, and then 3 months later check if they were whatever it is, then oh my gosh, you're lucky. You're doing something right.
They're your client at that point.
Exactly. The other thing is it's really easy to get in the weeds, right? So you can. You can start talking about normalization, and if you look at data for Christmas, it's different than data for Easter, and if people behave differently on Mondays than they do on Thursdays, and there's a point where you just need to kind of cut it off, right? I get into this all the time now with the deep dive emails. Like literally, I was up until 2:00 in the morning last week because I got too in the weeds with the data. And I was like, well, I'm seeing this, but it's not 100%. Yeah. And it was like, okay, stop now. I can't explain it in 2 sentences. I should not be going down this rabbit hole. If it's not simple enough for you to explain, then there's really no reason for you to share it, right? Everybody's going to skim. Nobody's going to read end to end. And so it needs to be straightforward.
For sure. The same thing is true of presentations, where if you make a very direct statement, or like all SEO trends towards 0 or something, people are like, wow, that guy, he knows what he's talking about. And then as soon as you qualify it 2 or 3 times, well, except when this or except when that, and people are like, oh no, he doesn't actually know what he's talking about. So,
right. And it's not true. You do know what you're talking about, right? You do. A big picture trend is a big picture trend. There's always going to be outliers. There's always going to be something a little different, but you need to look at it. You need a bird's eye view on it. Otherwise, you're going to get in the weeds, and it's not going to give any value.
For sure. We have a question from the audience, which is, when you're making newsletters, how do you make sure you're using the right terminology that your audience will understand, or that your questions aren't skewed, and that you're accurately describing the information?
So that's always a huge challenge, right? But at the end of the day, who you're talking to, right? There are certain things that, right? If we're talking to a marketer, marketers know what CPCs are. They know what a conversion rate is. They know what a click-through rate is. There's once you start getting into like view-through attribution or 28-day click, obviously the knowledge level there is a little different. It changes from person to person. In this case, I'm just using marketing as an example. But you should know your basic glossary, and when in doubt, put the definition in parentheses, right? But also the other way to look at it is look at what your customers are reading. I really like this. I actually subscribe to all the newsletters that our customers subscribe to. I get like 30 emails in my inbox a day, just newsletters that I've subscribed to, just so I know what everybody's reading. And it gives me, like, if I know there's like trade publication, like DigiDay, huge fan of DigiDay. All of our customers probably read DigiDay. So if I'm saying the same things DigiDay is saying, then I'm okay. All right, does that make sense? So it's about kind of understanding your customer more than anything else.
How long did it take you to learn all this different terminology that since you started in a different industry?
Oh, it's always like a really, it's really hard to ramp up, 100%. Usually I feel confident in it about 3 months in, but I start using the terminology about a month in. I think something that's really overlooked when you come into a new job as a marketer is your connection with the R&D and technology team. So I'm in product marketing, which means I need to understand the technology. But even before I had the fancy product marketing title, I would get in the weeds. I would sit down with like algorithm teams and understand how stuff worked. I was best friends with the product team because I wanted to understand what I was selling. And I think that's where you get, like, understand your product and try to do that as quickly as possible, and you should be good. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you gave a great example about people wanting to answer your survey if they're the same job as you and they're a content marketer.
Right.
You said it works across all industries. Do you have examples of other surveys that maybe you've seen people give to engineers or other job titles, and whether or not they work the same or what you'd change to make them work to be enticing?
Yeah, for sure. I speak at conferences a lot, like there's a lot of content marketing conferences. So I always have people like coming in and asking questions and then sharing their results. So literally like 3 weeks ago, I had a conversation with somebody who does fleet management software. Okay, so it's about like where trucks are at any given point.
Got it.
Okay, so like literally it's for people who manage trucks and like delivery trucks, right? And same exact thing, right? There's people who manage a fleet of delivery trucks want to know, what the maximum mileage is that they can do before getting tired. They want to know, I don't know anything about fleets, but you get the idea, right? And it was just as effective. That's just an immediate example, but I get it a lot. Like people who do hotel booking software. A lot of it's SaaS. I admit I'm not like, I don't know if if I've ever seen it tried with medical equipment or with fans. But I can assume that it's very similar. Mostly, it's a lot of this is very relevant to SaaS, but I think it's relevant to everybody. If you try to do it while selling fans, please let me know. I'm curious.
Okay, we'll find that person and we'll make sure they reach out. The follow-up question is, do you see a difference in how many people respond based on who it comes from at your organization? Like, I know when I was in college, I would send out a survey and be like, hey, I'm making a final paper, you're an alumni, can you like answer the survey for me? And it was kind of like 100%, response, yes, I'll help you. Do you find that sending it to people like you're sending to people with the exact same job title, or sending it from an intern has a higher response?
So I always think that you need to, it depends on the company, and it depends on who and what that company's presence is. Okay, so for example, our chief commercial officer, every single one of our customers and every single one of our prospects has talked to him at some point or another, or has seen him in email communication. So the Friday reader comes from him, right? He may not be the one that's writing it all the time, but the Friday reader comes from him. On the other hand, I'm kind of like the expert in the company in terms of just, I've got, I have a bit of like a conference presence. I do like people in content marketing, kind of, not everybody knows me, but some people do, maybe. So the deep dive stuff comes from me. And even if they don't know me, then they know that if they reply to that email, they will get an answer, and it's my personal email. I don't believe in, this is the big thing. Don't send out a like no reply at, email. Don't send out of info at. Make it from a person and keep those people consistent. So like, for instance, how many of you guys like have Trello or tried Trello at some point, right? Taco from Trello. Everybody knows Taco from Trello. Look at your inbox. You probably have gotten an email from Taco from Trello. I've used Trello twice, and I know like there's a dude from Trello, right? And because people see the names in their inbox and it becomes familiar. So it's just about being consistent and making it a real person.
Gotcha. So that's for sending out consistent stuff to people who have subscribed. When you're sending out those 20,000 cold emails with your survey, do you also send it from the same consistent people, or where's that? Yep. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Just keep it a real person and keep it consistent is the best thing you can possibly do. That survey, I think we ended up sending from our sales because that was the email people were seeing. Sorry about that. That's what made sense from our head sales guy. That's what made sense at the time. For Keywee, it's something else. It's you kind of, once you get into the company and get a lay of the land, you kind of figure out who, if they're not an authority yet, who should be the authority.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Inbar, I got a question now. It seems like you've got a lot of experience at doing marketing, content marketing. You've been all over the place.
Yep.
I always tend to find, what was the most unexpected campaign that you thought wouldn't have worked that worked, or that you thought would work that didn't work?
Well, that's a hard one. Yeek.
That's why we bring Brian.
If there's something that like doesn't immediately come to mind, what's your favorite strategy right now in terms of anybody that's getting started? Is it this survey hack? Is it the survey recipe? Got it.
100% survey. 100% survey. It's gonna work for you, right? I've tried it enough times. I've never seen it go wrong. There's something about like the interactivity of it. It's kind of a gamification kind of thing. Well, another buzzword, but like, yeah. Oh, here's an interesting thing. Quizzes, guys. Seriously, quizzes. They're amazing. If you want a good way to just engage your database, you give them a quiz, see how good they are at whatever subject it is, and then have them submit their email for an answer. Boom. It's amazing.
In terms of like general like content marketing and SEO these days, do you think that there's still a large opportunity there, or is that very dependent upon the product that you're selling? Does it have to be more consumer and prosumer, or do you think that SEO is still, or is it kind of like commodified and a lot of competition?
Listen, it depends on what space you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You always need to have your SEO game on point. Is that going to be your number one driver? Who knows, right? A lot of it is luck. You gotta, I don't, at the end of the, search engine traffic is always going to be a source of traffic for you. Whether you're second, you're second in the first page or you're on page 10, right? At the end of the day, you're going to see traffic from there. And so you should have your SEO game down. But that's only going to go so far. You need to do your own distribution, right? You need to distribute to your email list. You need to do paid. You need to do influencer. You need to get bylines. I'm a big fan of bylines and other publications. I think that does a lot. So SEO is important for sure,
right.
But it might not be.
So
you need to do other stuff too.
What I feel like you're saying here is that if you want to control your own destiny, SEO may not be like a viable route. And these other tactics around sending out the 20,000 cold emails using Mixmax, you're controlling your own destiny a little bit more. Got it.
Exactly. And again, I don't want to discount SEO. SEO is important. It's really important. And we've got a writer, a person on the Kiwi team. His entire job is SEO. Is to write long form SEO content. You need to have that, right? You absolutely do. But I'll give you a good example. So Trend Daemon, right? When I joined, I wanted to do ad acquisition. I do think that paid distribution is important. I work for a paid distribution company now, right? I worked at Taboola. Taboola is also about paid content distribution. So wait, I lost my train of thought. In my defense, it is, what is it? 9:24 p.m. over here.
It's all good.
9:24 a.m. What? That's the beginning of the day. You should be wide
PM.
awake.
PM.
Oh, p.m.
PM.
So,
Yeah, and
so
I'm
tell
kids.
so Kiwi and Tubula, like this content distribution, do you guys drink your own champagne?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I really do think that paid distribution, back to controlling your own destiny, right? Paid distribution, you need to find the channels that work for you and you need to know those channels, but it works. B2B SaaS, for example, LinkedIn. Huge. Like, get whatever SaaS company I'm going to go in, I'm going to try to get budget for a gated content acquisition campaign on LinkedIn. No question. Right? I might not do, I might do Taboola just because I know Taboola really well, but I probably won't use Keywee for Facebook because B2B SaaS, you don't necessarily, Facebook's not really where you want to go, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do think that paid distribution needs to be in any mix. You just need to know where to go.
Got it. Inbar, this has been great. I learned a ton of stuff. I learned about content distribution, the survey method, utilizing quizzes, even a cold email campaign, and then putting together percentages and getting the right message across without getting into the nitty-gritty details of the actual numbers, because nobody really cares anyways. They just want to understand about themselves, who they're doing, and are they doing okay, and am I doing just as good as the next person next to me? This has been awesome. Who would you like to see on Masters of Marketing? Who do you go for, like influence and content, and want to see on here?
Okay, so I love Gong.io. They're amazing. I love everything they do. Their marketing is just it's. I also like Drift on that. Mm-hmm. They're on point.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And then that's awesome. And then people can reach you at Inbar at Kiwi. Is there any other places where you want to reach out? LinkedIn is the best
LinkedIn
place?
is good. I have a Twitter handle, but I'm bad at Twitter. I shouldn't be probably as a content marketer, but I'm bad at Twitter. So I just
Same.
Yeah.
I just LinkedIn all day long.
Yeah, me too. That's where I live. So yeah, LinkedIn. Yeah. My email. Happy to answer any other questions if you want to opt into Kiwi newsletters.
For sure.
Absolutely.
We'll put the Kiwi newsletter link on this video.
Cool.
All right, everybody. This has been another edition of Masters of Marketing, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you, Inbar.
Inbar, thank you
Thanks
so
for having
much.
me.
Thanks for all the great content.
Sure.
Excellent.
Have a great day.
Great.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.